My feeling is that religious liberty is under a definite and growing assault in the United States. And when I say religious liberty is under assault, I don't mean just in terms of people disagreeing. That's not a violation of liberty. That's the exercise of liberty. I'm talking about the intervention of government and the use of government as a weapon against people's religious, not only beliefs, but against people's religious activities. I am befuddled and bewildered and dismayed that we have now become a country where we're all supposed to sit around on Monday and wait for the 9 wisest and most moral among us to descend in their robes and inform us to what extent we're allowed to worship God in our business lives. This is what the threat, I believe, is, and I think that the threat is quite deep. I think what we're going to watch in the next 2 years is states like Washington try to withdraw the nonprofit status of various churches that refuse to perform same-sex marriages. Once those nonprofit status, under the guise of the Bob Jones University decision from the 1980s, and then they will attempt to remove any business license from churches that refuse to perform same-sex marriages. And this will be a tremendous crackdown on religious freedom in America. The argument that's being made in the case is that basically the state can encroach on any religious behavior whatsoever so long as it doesn't encroach on religious opinion. And that's the problem with the case in and of itself. And I think that the point that you're making, Michael, is that people who use this case as a case against the exercise of religious freedom in the public square in terms of action are the same people, in large part, who are saying that the state has no right to regulate, for example, gay marriage, which is a completely illogical position. So you have to believe that either the state has to make provision and make room for religious liberty in exercise, or you have to believe that the state has the power to basically compel whatever behavior it seeks so long as it doesn't affect opinion. The minute that you have the government deciding whose beliefs are deeply held versus what is not deeply held, I mean, that literally is the thought police. I mean, that is the government deciding what's in your head and then guaranteeing you certain rights based on what's in your head. And the bottom line to this entire discussion is really, does the government have the power to regulate your religious behavior if the government feels that it violates its morality?
And I will stand up for what we have built.
But you'll shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay couple.
As a great culture with great religious liberty.
But you will shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay wedding.
Pardon me?
But you'll shut down my business if I don't serve a cake to a gay wedding.
I can assure you we'll be getting to shutting down businesses.
Give me an example.
As a result.
Give me an example.
I'll give you an example of
that exact example. This is sort of the point, I think, is that when you look at the word imposition is being thrown around a lot. You know, imposition. That people are imposing their beliefs on others. There's only one group in this country that is using the government to impose their beliefs on others at the point of a gun, and that is not Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby is involved in a consensual relationship between the employer and the employee. Churches are involved in consensual relationships between themselves and their constituents. The government is not involved in a consensual relationship when it tells a business that it will revoke its license and it will come to their front door if they remain open, and it will forcibly shut down their business. There's only one person and one group that is coming to the party here with a gun. And the only group, I mean, you said conservatives love guns. Liberals love guns far more. They just love guns that are being used by the government against conservatives. The reason that I use the gun language is because it is vitally important for people to understand that every government measure at the end of the day it must be compelled by force. That's what government measures are for. There is a vast difference, a huge difference in terms of personal liberty and freedom between the government compelling behavior and a company saying that we are not going to provide certain types of coverage, and if you don't like that, you can quit or buy your own coverage. There's a vast difference. Michael, you went to public school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did I for elementary school, and I think I was in the Christmas pageant. I believe I was an elf, and somehow I didn't magically turn into a Christian. And my guess is that both you and I could probably sing in beautiful two-part harmony all of Silent Night, probably based on what we learned in public school. The idea that this is some sort of grand imposition or grand inquisition, and that the acting out of the mere saying of the word Christmas in a public school is somehow an establishment of religion to the exclusion of all other religions. Before you warned that perhaps I should take things a little more lightly. On this one, I do take it pretty lightly.
Good.
So yeah, the idea that
I'm proud of you, man.
The idea that religion is being imposed on me by a public school when there is a Christmas pageant I can opt in or out of is if this is as bad as it gets, then I'm willing to live with that.
How much stronger is the religious persecution on leftist campuses?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to be a religious person on campus. I'll answer the second question first. It's not easy to be a religious person on campuses because you're perceived as stupid. I mean, the nice thing is if you do, once you go to Harvard Law School, they can't say that anymore. But but you get that a lot, right? It's the idea that you're a dummy for believing in religion. And the truth is, all of Western civilization is based on a Judeo-Christian value system. It hasn't sprung up anywhere else. I mean, there are tons of cultures all over the globe, and none of them have the kind of civilization America does. And America, by the way, is still significantly more religious than Europe, which is not coincidentally one of the reasons why we are significantly more powerful than Europe. So, you know, when they say that you know, you're a fool for believing in God, the truth is that belief in God is belief. Right? You have to take a leap of faith. It can't be proved. It can't be something. It's not something that you can make a scientific hypothesis and then fulfill that hypothesis. But atheism can't be proved either. And there's no way to prove these sorts of intangibles. And what that means is that you can either choose to at least acknowledge. What I would say to people is, look, whether you believe in God personally is your own business. It is. I don't really care particularly. As a religious person, I care about your soul. But as a political person, it's your own business. I don't care. But as a society, when we fail to acknowledge the value of Judeo-Christian religion steeped in the idea that every human being has equal worth under God, you end up very quickly devolving into a socialism that ends up demeaning human beings individually. Because there's never been a place on earth that wasn't like that. The fact is that the collective takes over. People worship. People are made to worship. And we will either worship God or we will worship the state. Or we'll worship ourselves. Right? Those tend to be the three choices. You're either a libertine, or you're a communist, or you're a conservative. Those are sort of the three choices. So, you know, I think that when it comes to defending religion, it's easier to defend the system of religion than particular religious belief, because we all have different religions, we all have different religious beliefs. Even among Orthodox Jews, there's a lot of diversity of each individual has their own relationship with God, and you can't argue anybody else into your relationship with God. What you can say is, here is something that is unquestioned and undoubted. Judeo-Christian religion has created the foundation for the greatest civilization in the history of mankind, and ripping away the foundations of that civilization on behalf of a philosophy that really has never built anything without those roots in Judeo-Christian. Atheism, modern atheism, has its root in Judeo-Christian religion. It does. It doesn't exist in the Islamic world, right? Modern atheism, the freedom to be an atheist, only exists in the West. It only exists in the Judeo-Christian world. The freedoms that the left bases its whole worldview on are within a milieu that was created by a religion it despises. You can't just take a battering ram to the foundations of civilization and hope the superstructure stands. So that's my answer as far as God.
I'd like to ask you, who or what is God to you?
Who or what is God to me?
Yes, and what role, if any, does that play?
God's my man. I mean, so you know, it's the creator of the universe, the master of heaven and earth. You know, who is God to me? God is, you know, as an Orthodox Jew, I believe that God provided us a moral foundation in the Bible, and that moral foundation is, if you live by that moral foundation, you will live a happier, better life, freer of sin. You know, I think that God provides the idea of an objective moral standard that immediately begins to crumble as soon as you get to a subjective idea that everybody can create their own morality. So that's I think, the role of God in society. You know, as far as what is God to me personally, you know, all I can say is that I don't believe in God, I know in God. You know, I don't just have faith in God, I have trust in God. And so that may not end up well for me, because it doesn't always end up well for people with faith. But you know, I think that you know, not recognizing God's providence over the universe, for me particularly, would be an act of tremendous ingratitude.